Today, on this episode of The Crossover, we will be discussing the makings of an Olympian with 2022 Olympian and internationally recognized freestyle skier Hanna Faulhaber. Find out the talent, drive, and sacrifice necessary to become a world champion. Much more on this episode of The Crossover. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be talking with Olympian Hanna Faulhaber today. Badass 17-year-old who just competed in the Olympics. Hey, Hannah, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Rick?
I'm good. I'm good. Listen, thank you so much for joining us. I want to ask where are you today? I know you're out training.
Yeah, I'm out at Buttermilk, but it's not gonna be the best training because it snowed overnight. But still will be fun to get out and ski. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, listen, just while everyone's logging on, I'm going to introduce Hanna Faulhaber. She is an internationally recognized Olympic freestyle skier, a 17-year-old who hails from the world famous Basalt High School in Colorado. Her achievements include fourth place in the women's halfpipe at the 2021 FIS Freestyle Ski and Snowboarding World Championships. She was third place on the 2021 Do Tour. She has two World Cup podiums, a third place at the 2022 X Games in Aspen, and most recently, Hannah competed in the 2022 Winter Olympics in China, where she achieved the highest score of any Team USA member. So here today to discuss the making of an Olympian. We're going to talk a little bit about her talent, her drive, all the sacrifices she made to become a world-renowned Olympic freestyle skier. So again, thank you so much for joining us, Hannah. It's a real pleasure.
Of course, anytime.
So let's start with just basics. I mean, when did you first start skiing?
Oof. I'd say like 2.5, 3 years old. I started skiing here at Buttermilk, and yeah, started off on the little tiny hill. So yeah, that's where amazing spot to start.
And then tell us a little bit how you went from skiing and then you got into the half pipe. Like was there like a certain event that got you into it? Did you watch something?
Yeah, I mean the growing up, the X Games has been here, I think, my whole life, and I've grown up and just watched it every single year that I've been here. I think I only missed one watching it live, but that's all good. And yeah, definitely inspired me to get into the half pipe. And growing up, we had two amazing 22-foot half pipes here, so yeah, not a bad place to get into the sport.
Not at all. It sounds like you're right in the best place to get involved in the sport. Now, I mean, a lot of people get into the half pipe and they think that they can be in the X Games, but obviously a very small percentage do. At what point did you realize that you had the potential to be world class? Was there, again, a certain age, event, experience that you're like, wow, I could actually do this really well?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I would go through all the time, and then I started competing. But honestly, I think just last year when I competed in World Champs was kind of my eye opener to like, wow, I can probably go places with this. And it's just been mind blowing of how far I've come even since then.
Yeah, it is amazing how much confidence you can clearly see with every event and your wins, you're becoming more confident. Let's go again back to your early training because I want to get into kind of you started skiing, you realized that you had a skill. Talk about your early training regimens. I'm talking like 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old. How many hours a day did you have to practice?
Oof, I don't even know what I was doing at 8 or 10. I'd say like obviously at a younger age, I grew up starting in the AVSC program, and it was just such an amazing program, and you got to work on the trampoline, you got to ski during the summer a little bit, and obviously as I grew up, I got into the gym more serious on the trampoline, and all of those different things definitely built up. But when I was younger, I didn't. It was more so just a hobby. Not saying that it's not a hobby now, but it's a little more serious now for sure.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's become more and more serious over the years, and more training goes into it as the further I go.
Now, you've been obviously in school. How did you manage to balance school, finishing on time, and all of your training regimens?
Yeah, so freshman year of high school, I did all 7 courses, and then sophomore year, I kind of did half-half, just so that like as soon as lunch hit, I could just head on up to go train in the afternoon, and then end of sophomore year, COVID hit, so it made me go fully online. And then as it went further and further along, obviously because of COVID, I just kept doing fully online throughout my junior year and senior year, just so that I could stay safe and still be able to go do what I love.
Amazing. What about your diet and nutrition? I know that obviously young kids tend to not have much of a strict diet, but you as a world-class athlete, did you have to tailor your diet when you were younger? Do you still tailor your diet or do you not at all?
Honestly, not really. I mean, mom cooks for me a lot, and it's a little harder when I go away on trips and I'm trying to get a little better with that. But yeah, it's not really a specific diet. You just kind of have to like make sure you aren't eating junk food all the time, and yeah, nothing really like, oh, I have to meet this amount of calories today, blah blah blah.
Got you. Now, what about, people when they reach your level always talk about sacrifices, right? You don't get to be one of the best in the world at anything without really sacrificing other activities. At this point in your career, what do you feel would be the biggest sacrifices that you've made so far in your life to get to where you are?
Oof, that's a good question. I'd say just like not being able to be at school is a big one, just because I've on it obviously like pretty much found out kind of who my close friends are, and they've stuck with me through it, which is super nice. But yeah, just not being around a lot of people from back home and not being around the family as much and stuff like that. And my family's also made tons and tons of sacrifices for me as well. Like this past season, we took Lucy out of school a little bit just so that Lucy's my little sister. Just so that like I wouldn't get COVID just because I mean I got invited to the Olympics and we didn't want to risk any of that because if I had gotten it, I wouldn't have been able to go. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, what about, people always talk about how difficult it is as a teenager when you're making these sacrifices, and obviously no one's road to success is perfect. Did you have any major bumps in the road? Did you ever consider quitting? Were there ever any times when you said, this is just too much and I don't want to do it?
It's a good question. Yes and no. Yes, because like, but not in the sense like I'm sacrificing too much because I love this sport so much. And I can't see myself doing anything else, even now, or in the future, near future at least. Eventually, I will have to. But yeah, not necessarily like because I'm sacrificing a lot and because I'm not able to do a bunch of other things, but just like sometimes when I've never really experienced it, but at the Olympics, I experienced like kind of mental struggle. Um, and during finals, and I was pretty much just crying all of practice and was able to pull myself back in. But right then, I was like, what am I doing? I'm usually having fun. I don't know what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And it was, yeah, that was not fun.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get into that because I really want to get into the stress of something so high level like the Olympics. But let's start by saying, what was the feeling of being selected for the Olympics, right? So you work your entire life up to the age of 17, you're kind of aiming for the Olympics, and then you finally find out that you're selected. Can you try to describe what that was like?
It was amazing. I mean, we got told kind of like what requirements we had to make to be selected, and I was the first girl to meet the requirements, so I kind of figured I was going. I wasn't 100% sure, but I mean, still getting the confirmation, and then we did like this little um announcement party in Mammoth after our last World Cup, and it was just really, really nice to like have that, and we got to try on some of the US team gear, and it was so surreal.
I mean, it must have been such an amazing feeling of accomplishment when you work so hard and then you finally get to accomplish that. But so once you got over that initial euphoria of getting selected for the 2022 Olympics, how did you prepare physically and mainly mentally? Because you were talking about the stress of the Olympics. Was there anything in particular that you did before the Olympics to prepare physically and mentally?
Not necessarily. The main thing was just staying safe from COVID, really. Like like I said, sacrificed Lucy, taking her out of school. I wore a N95 mask around my own house, like
Wow.
besides in my own bedroom. Yeah, it was tough because I mean, if I did get COVID, it was gonna be couldn't go, and then I would just be kicking myself after. But yeah, not really anything physically, and honestly, I didn't really mentally prepare because I've never really ran into something like that where I struggled. So I didn't really mentally prepare before the Olympics, but I think I will in the future. But I think my main thing was to like not to put too much pressure on my result. However, I think I ended up putting a little too much pressure. Not pressure, but kind of knowing, oh, I could possibly be up there on the podium. I mean, I've had podiums um throughout the season, and it could be a possibility. And I think just going in with that kind of set my bar of expectation a little too high.
Well, tell us a little bit. How was China when you first got there? How receptive were they to all the athletes, to the Americans? How was your time in China?
It was amazing. Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about it. It was once in a lifetime experience. Well, hopefully I get to experience more. But yeah, it was great. We did have it was a long day of travel to get there. And we were all just so tired. And the first thing we get off of the plane and we get the COVID test. And like, I know people say, oh, they're like tickling my brain, but I swear this one touched the back of my skull. It went so far up there. So yeah, that was like a little, oh, yep, I'm awake now. And then we had a 6 hour bus ride, which kind of wasn't pleasant at all. But other than that, it was amazing.
Yeah, and you couldn't have family there, is that correct?
No, we couldn't have family
Mm.
there. It really that was a big bummer. I know that they wish that they could have been there, and I wish that they could have been there, but they had a nice watch party over here in Aspen and invited all my friends and all my old coaches and a bunch of different people out, which was nice. And then, I mean, even though I didn't have family there, the team's my family, so it was just nice to have them there. And I have amazing team manager who's literally my team mom when I'm on the road. So it was nice to have her there as well.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. Let's hear a little bit about those days of the events, because we capture it on TV, but it's just the event, right? I want to hear about, here you are, you are 17, you're in high school, you're in a foreign country, no family, in the Olympics. What is that day of your performances like? When do you get up? What's the preparation? What's going through your mindset that day?
Yeah, so we had arrived to Beijing. We had 3 days off to kind of get adjusted, and then we had 3 days of training, and then 2 days following that of competition. It was pretty busy because typically, like, we do 3 days on, 1 day off to train, just so we don't tire ourselves out too much. But this was 5 days on, so that was pretty tough. So the first day of practice, kind of got used to the half pipe, did a few tricks. Second day of practice, did pretty much my whole run. Third day of practice, tried out this new trick, but didn't. The key was on the third day of practice, just do enough. Just because if you don't do enough, then you'll be struggling during the competition. But if you do too much, then you'll be too tired for the competition. So there's a very fine line there. But yeah, I don't really, like I said, I don't really mentally prepare, which I should maybe start trying out a little bit more. But basically I listen to music when I ski. So the
What do you
night
listen to?
before,
What do you
oh,
listen
that's a
to?
good question. My playlist is all over the place. For the Olympics, the song I dropped into was Gold Dust.
Nice.
Couldn't
Okay.
tell you who it's by. Um, but I so I listened to that song the night before while watching like the next or whatever video I have of me skiing that I think is the best video of me skiing. And so I watch that as I'm listening to the music, and that's kind of like my way of kind of visualizing what will go on. So that's my mental preparation. And then honestly, the day of qualies was such a fun day. All of the girls were just in such high spirits, and we were just having the time of our lives, or at least I was. I can't really speak for the other girls. I think they were. But yeah, I couldn't wipe the smile off my face. I was just super happy to be there, and weather was good. Couldn't have asked for really a better day. It was cold, but I mean, we did pick a winter sport, so that's kind of what you get. But yeah, it was such an amazing day, qualies. And then finals came around, did the same type of preparation. And I woke up that morning. I knew it was going to be windy. It ended up being pretty windy during practice. A lot of people ask me like, "Oh, well, your weather was a lot better than the boys, right?" And I was like, during the competition, yes. During practice, ours was worse, in my opinion. I don't know because I didn't ski the pipe during the boys' competition, but so they put up that like wind wall to prevent the wind from coming in, but it like swirled back into the pipe and was just like down at the bottom. And so all of practice, I couldn't get out on my last hit. And that's the hit where I do my biggest trick. Um, so that made me quite frustrated. And then I ended up taking a pretty decently big fall, like pretty much towards the end of practice. And I just kind of broke and just started crying for the rest of practice. And I was like, I went back up to my coaches and I was like, I can't talk to you right now. I just gotta go have a fun lap and realize why I'm here. And because when I was crying, I was like, I honestly don't want to compete. I'm not having fun. And that's the big thing for me is as long as I'm having fun, I'll do it. If I'm not having fun, is there really a point? I
Exactly.
mean, it was
So
hard, and I was like, ah, like, found myself, started having fun, super grateful that I had my team manager down there. Like I said, she was like my mom on the trip. So I went down and I was crying, and she just gave me a big hug, and it's exactly what I needed. And yeah, we were able to land 2 out of the 3 runs, and I was able to give it my all and try out a new trick. So I'm happy with how I did for the most part.
yeah, I mean, you did amazing, and I think you're downplaying how well you did, but I really want to go back to, because that's stuff that people don't know. Everyone sees you finishing as the highest placed American in that event, but they don't realize, and I never realized, that you fell in practice, you know, crying, kind of doubting yourself. Why are you doing this? Such an amazing rebound on your part, and you really credit your support staff really for that rebound, being able to get your mind back in the game, stay positive, stay confident, most importantly. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the support staff is um was a big part because I mean, I didn't, like I said, I didn't have my family there, so I kind of had them be my substitute family in a way. And they were great and really brought me back.
And you were saying that for the next Olympics, which I'm sure you'll be in 2026, that you would do more mental preparation. And you know, athletes at your level have frequently said that performance, again, at your level, is mainly mental. Like, everyone has the physical skill, but it's the mental aspect that really separates good from great. I mean, what do you have to say about that? Is that true? Do you feel like mental is the most important part of that event?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, obviously you have to have the physical side of things, otherwise you wouldn't be doing the sport. But what really separates people and really a lot of people struggle with is the mental side of it. And it's starting to show a lot more throughout all the sports is really just people cracking under pressure and pulling out of competitions because just not having a fun time. And I think that it's pretty big. And at the Olympics, it was my first time kind of experiencing a mental breakdown during competition, and it was not fun at all.
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's crazy. I think I don't know what I would have done to like mentally prepare for that, but I think or I hope that I will be able to find that out as 4 years go by.
Now, you talked about mental pressure, and we've all heard about the importance of mental health with, like, Simone Biles last summer when
hmm
she had to withdraw. You know, now having been in the Olympics, how real is that pressure that she spoke about when you feel like you're representing your entire country? And also, how did you deal with that pressure? I mean, what would you tell yourself when you felt it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely you are out there representing your country, and I talked to several athletes, and after our competition, we were like, there were a few of us, including me, um, that were like, oh, not me as much as others, but that were kind of like, I feel like I feel like I've disappointed everybody. Because I mean, you hear all these stories about people watching you and like, oh, Hannah, like, oh, I'm over here watching you, good luck, and you're like, okay, that's another person that's watching me. Um, and yeah, it's crazy to just think of all the amount of people that had you on their TV watching you, and it was definitely something that I just kind of had to block out of my mind. And that day that I was struggling, I've never talked to myself before I dropped. But that day I did. I was just like, okay, Hannah, like just like you do in practice, you're fine. It's okay. And yeah, we got going, and it ended up working out, but it was, oof,
I mean,
yeah,
you did
you
amazing.
definitely,
You
thank
definitely
you.
did amazing, and you're kind of underselling how amazing you did. And I think the whole constellation of your age, your first time in the Olympics, foreign country, no family, high wind, super high pressure stakes, having fallen in practice. I mean, the whole, collection of all the situation is really amazing how well you did. But so where do you go from here? What's next in the world in terms of freestyle skiing for you in the next year or two? Obviously 2026 Olympics, but prior to that, what's next for you?
Well, that's the goal. Let's hope that happens. Yeah, not really sure. Just kind of playing it by ear. Just kind of cruising around with friends right now during the spring while the mountains are still open over here. And I know that after that, then we will head on over to a Mammoth spring camp. And I know that I'll head back over to New Zealand to see family and we'll probably end up skiing over there. But yeah, just get back into the competition season this next winter and hopefully another X Games invite comes in and yeah, just stuff like that. Just
What
keep
about
on going.
you have any plans for college kind of remotely while you're training, or is that going to just hold off for now?
I think that I will probably that's a great question because honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I think that I will probably go in and do like some sort of an online college and just um, kind of pluck away just to keep the brain going so I don't forget everything. And then try and pick it up a few years later. So yeah, just kind of slowly get it done, but just start it up.
Got you. And kind of last question, because I know you got stuff going on, but you're obviously a role model for so many young athletes that are trying to become great in whatever sport they do. What do you have to say for anyone who looks up to you and says, Hannah, what's the best advice you have for me?
It's super cute. All of the little kids here are just so stoked. Alex and I had a shoot yesterday at the pipe, and they all just came and they were supposed to be training with all their different groups, and they just kind of sat at the bottom and watched, and it was really funny to see and just super cute. And a thing that I say to them all the time is just make sure you're having fun because, like I said before, that's the main part of it. And if you're not having fun, go find something else that makes you have fun. So yeah, that's the big part to everything to me for me.
Yeah, and I think that's applicable not just in sports, but anything in life. I think if you're going to
Yeah,
be great at anything, whether it's a sport or at school or your job or family or whatever, it's got to be your passion. It can't just be a job. So well said, and obviously just a huge role model for all the young athletes out there. Listen, Hannah, awesome interview. Great talking to you as always. Super proud of everything you've accomplished. Just hearing your story and everything that you've done up to this point, the sacrifices, the hard work, the dedication, really inspirational. So look forward to seeing all your future accomplishments. And again, congrats on everything. Amazing.
thank you so much, Rick. Hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. Take care, Hannah.
See
All
ya.
the best.
Bye.
Take care.